The trio of women who killed for Charles Manson had spent just 10 months on death row when the US Supreme Court outlawed the death penalty. On February the 18th, 1972, Leslie, Susan and Patricia saw their sentences reduced to life behind bars. Over the next few years, their devotion to Manson slowly soured.
Really, I just think that he was just a really good con artist. I feel like I was a pawn in whatever his scheme was. I'm glad that I will never again have to see him.
But on the outside, Lynette's Squeaky Fr stayed loyal to Manson, and she became alarmed when Pat, Leslie and Susan began to turn away from him.
She would get a response from them saying basically, look, we're the ones who are in prison, okay? We don't want to be here anymore. We want out. You know, if you're so devoted to Manson, what have you done lately?
On September the 5th, 1975, Squeaky decided it was time to prove her devotion to Manson. She strapped a .45 caliber semi-automatic gun to her leg. President Gerald Ford was visiting Sacramento that day.
Ford had his hands out and was waving. He looked like cardboard to me.
When Fr drew the gun, she was quickly wrestled to the ground. But the Secret Service found no shell in the firing chamber. Squeaky said that she had never intended to fire a shot.
I got 2 feet from him. I could have shot twice had I put the bullet in there.
Her only goal, she said, was to relay a message from Manson.
I said, Your Honor, the redwood trees need to be saved. They're the tallest trees in the world, and if you can't save your world's tallest trees, something's wrong.
Later that year, Lynette Squeaky Fr became the first American woman to go on trial for attempting to assassinate a president. She was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
Do you have any regrets for that day?
No. No, I don't. I feel it was fate.
While Squeaky gave up her freedom, the other women struggled to regain theirs. Over the years in the same California prison, Leslie, Pat and Susan have earned college degrees and held down jobs. At parole hearings, they've offered words of remorse, even Susan, who was once proud of her part in the murders.
I know the pain and the suffering that I caused Mrs. Tate, Mrs. Frykowski, Mr. Frykowski's son, the Hinman family, the LaBianca family. I know. Nobody has to tell me. I know.
She's not fooling me. She was not remorseful for killing Sharon. It didn't bother her a bit. So you're going to turn people like this loose on the streets?
Stop to think about it. Susan Atkins has been convicted of 8 murders. She's been behind bars for 30 years. That's 3.5 years of murder. That's not enough.
Since 1971, only Leslie has had a taste of freedom. Her case was retried in 1977, which ended in a hung jury, but she was found guilty in a 3rd trial the following year. She is still considered the most likely to be paroled.
You know, I've thought, how do you even begin to rectify something as permanent as loss of life?
Each time Pat comes up for parole, she says she struggles to come to terms with what she did.
I was just a young woman that I killed who had parents. She was supposed to live a life, and her parents were never supposed to see her dead.
Pat, Leslie and Susan have spent more than 30 years behind bars, more time than most murderers. But they believe their connection to Manson will keep them there even longer. He has been completely without remorse.
You have beat me, knocked my teeth out, broke my neck, drugged me with drugs, dragged me up and down hallways, prison hallways, handcuffed.
This routine that he's doing now and his little clown acts on television is all part of his way of I think, diminishing his own responsibility.
As their hopes for parole have faded, Leslie and Pat have found strong support in each other.
No one can understand what it was except we who were there. So it's like sometimes we can bring to each other an awareness that another person could never attempt to because we were there.
The older I get, the harder it is. Mrs. LaBianca was younger than I am now. I took away all that life.